Imagine trying to carry a huge stack of books up flights and flights of stairs. At first, you're able to manage, but as the pile grows, the load becomes heavier and heavier, each step getting harder and harder to the point where eventually you're just exhausted. You're barely moving up. This is what it feels like to lead without delegation, a burden that grows heavier until it's unsustainable. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Twanna. I'm an executive career coach for Black women. And today we are diving into a topic that actually lightens your load: the 5 simple delegation strategies that empower teams. Right. So, thank you so much for those of you who are joining live. And as well, thank you to all of you who catch the replay. I am much appreciative of that. And so if you hear, you go to my YouTube channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So we're going to jump right in. Now, whether you are a new manager or your seasoned leader, understanding how to delegate can actually transform your team's success and lift some weight off your shoulders. I mean, let's face it, when you're in a leadership position, there's a lot of weight there. You carry a lot of stuff, right? And so let's start talking about why delegation is such a struggle for so many of us. Now, delegation might sound simple, but in reality, there's a lot of fear surrounding that. So maybe you're worried that a task won't get done as well as you could do it. Or perhaps you've had some poor experiences with delegating to people in the past that kind of makes you hesitate to delegate. Whatever the reason is, right? Not delegating actually creates a lot more stress. And ironically, it slows down your team progress. Now, this is something that affects not only individual leaders, but an entire organization if it's left unchecked. Now, imagine this ideal scenario. You're leading your team without the stress of managing every single detail of every single thing, right? You don't have to do that yourself. Instead, your role is more focused on the high level strategies, guiding your team towards some common goals. Each team member feels like they're empowered to understand their task and they take ownership of their role. This isn't just a dream. It's entirely achievable. No, really, it is achievable when delegation is done right. So ideally, when you do delegation, it should be a partnership, where trust is established and there's clarity surrounding the task and what should be done. And team members are equipped with the skills that they need to succeed. So, why does delegation matter so much in the first place? Many of us know the frustration of working under, and check me on this one and see how many people identify with this one. So many of us, I know I do, understand the frustration of working under supervisors who offload all of their tasks onto us, all of it, only to then turn right around and take all the credit for doing the work themselves, which of course leaves us feeling invisible. We feel undervalued, and sometimes we're just downright ticked off. Just put it out there. Now, on the other hand, some of you may be more familiar with this one. Some of us struggle to delegate because it feels very uncomfortable, especially if you've risen through the ranks alongside your colleagues and all of a sudden you're in charge and they're not. That can get really, really uncomfortable. So, balancing effective delegation with recognition and navigating the discomfort around it is really essential for authentic leadership and your career growth. Because when delegation is neglected, we're not only increasing stress for ourselves as leaders, but we're also missing out on a huge opportunity for teams. And I am one who personally believes that. Our job as a leader is to develop the next set of leaders coming after us. That's our role. That is our job, right? Because employees who are not given responsibilities that challenge them may feel undervalued. You know how that felt when you were doing all your boss's work but not getting credit for it? That part. Your employees may also feel undervalued or just unengaged. They can actually become overly dependent upon your input, which can be just as exhausting for everybody involved, right? I know. I was talking with the client about this, and we were talking about sometimes I just get tired of using my brain. I just want to use my brain for me. I don't want to think for like 5, 10, 15, 20 other people. But when you don't delegate, people depend on you to make the decisions. They depend on you to find the flaws. They depend on you to give all the advice. Right. And so there's a reason why delegation is helpful. Right. So let me switch this off. So ultimately, ineffective delegation can lead to burnout, high turnover rates, as well as stagnant team growth, none of which are good for our business or for our morale. So the final implications of an ineffective delegation are just significant. And think about it. If you're caught up managing all the itty bitty small details, like all the minutia down in there, you're not going to focus on higher impact responsibilities. You don't have to, just simply don't have time. And that lack of focus can actually reduce productivity overall and ultimately affect the bottom line of your organization. And if your team isn't growing or feeling empowered, well, that results in higher training costs, increased hiring needs because there's more turnover. People want to go somewhere else where they're valued, where they do significant work, not where someone is like micromanaging every single detail. Because anybody out there has ever heard anybody say, I love being micromanaged? No, no, none of us likes being micromanaged. At least the majority of us don't. I mean, let's face that, right? And then, you certainly don't want to spend all that money rehiring because hiring people costs money. So time is money, and the mismanagement of tasks is a hidden but costly issue. So how do we fix it? I got 5 simple strategies that I can help you to delegate in a way that not only lightens your load, but also strengthens your team. So, number 1, I do a lot of lists, don't I? I actually do. I do a lot of lists, but there it is. Number 1, define the scope and objectives clearly. This is critical. Everyone should know exactly what is expected of them and what they need to produce, right? So clearly outline what needs to be done, no matter, and not no matter. You want to tell why it matters. That's important. Gone are the days, kind of like the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. You could just tell people to do something, and if they ask, it's because I said so. I mean, my mom used to say that. My dad used to say it all the time. But we're adults. We need to know the why. We need to know the why behind things. And you also need to tell them the specific, if there are constraints. Is there a time constraint? Is there material constraints? This clarity really helps your team members understand their roles and their responsibilities fully. There's nothing like someone, delegating to you and they're expecting you to do something and you kind of like this on what's expected because they sound like they don't know either, right? And you haven't gotten a full story, and that makes people hesitant. Okay. And so number 2 is delegate according to strengths, right? Delegate according to your employee's strength. Identify, and this takes works on your behalf, but it's like what you're supposed to do as a leader anyway. So really identify each team member's skills and interests and assign the tasks accordingly. And best way to do that is ask. I mean, you know, there are some folks who are like me. We're empathic and we can look and observe and we can pick that up. But I still like to ask. So just ask the question: what do you see your strengths as? What do you see your needs improvements? Because you're going to want to, of course, play to people's strengths. But at some point, you will also need to bring up that needs improvement as well. So you have a well-rounded employee. right? Because matching strengths to tasks just doesn't, make things more efficient. It does boost morale and performance. Everybody wants a win. All of us, we want to win at some point. And that's a win-win. Delegation to your strength, that's a win-win. Okay. And number 3, do empower your employees with trust and responsibility. Give team members autonomy. Tell them what you want done. Tell them the standards, right? But leave it up to their creativity and their initiative how it gets done. Because not everyone's going to do it exactly the same way. And that's when we talk about giving them autonomy, like, here's the mission. At the end of the day, that's what I want done. But how they choose to get there, give them as much autonomy as you possibly can. Trusting them to make those decisions that are within their role helps them to take ownership, and it builds confidence. And like I said, I just believe that every leader, your responsibility is to train that next group of leaders. If you hold on to all the decision making and all of that, you don't train. You don't train that next group. All right. Anybody out there been micromanaged before? It's like the worst. It's just, that was the top of my list as an employee. And when I was a W-2 employee, it's just, being micromanaged was not my thing. Right. So again, when you give employees autonomy, it really does build their confidence. And that's what you want. And number 4 is important. I've already mentioned this word a couple of times, but here it goes again. Set up regular check-ins without micromanaging. Because show of hands out there, anybody like micromanaging? It's probably not going to, one hand's going to go there. Nobody likes it. Anybody ever been micromanaged? Drop a 1 in the comments if you had that boss where you ended up being micromanaged. It's miserable. First of all, you kind of feel like you're being treated as a child, like you don't have common sense or good sense. Second of all, you feel like people don't trust you. If you're being micromanaged, you're like, you don't trust me that I can use my own brain and I can get this done to the standard that you want. And that's a lousy feeling. It just, nobody likes it. Right. So check-ins really are essential for alignment, but it's important to avoid over monitoring. That's just another way to say avoid micromanaging. I know when I was in the army, I had a commander who was like, make sure you get this done. And then his caveat would be, but don't trust your NCO to do it. You go do it yourself. And no, that's micromanaging. NCOs have a job. I have a job, and I'm trusting them to do what they're supposed to do. So micromanagement can really ruin an organization when it's not checked. It really can. Right. So something like a quick weekly progress review can actually offer support without stifling creativity. And number 5, do reward and recognize contributions. I mentioned it earlier. No one likes to be saddled with all this task or responsibilities. And then when it's time to show up and be awarded, have your boss swoop in and just take all the credit and pretend like you didn't do any work. Again, another lousy feeling. And most of the times when that happens enough times, you're looking for the exit door. You're not trying to stay around for that. Because recognition does go a really long way in maintaining morale. It's a simple step that can reinforce the culture of ownership within your team and keep them motivated. Right? So if you begin applying these strategies, you'll start to notice a difference, not only in your workload, but in the energy and the motivation of your team. And that's what it's all about, because effective delegation does help everyone. It helps everybody to grow. It keeps your team aligned, and it keeps you productive, and it saves you from burnout. And that's important. No more burnout. Okay. Now, you're not just freeing up your own time, but you're actively developing a team that is well equipped to take on new challenges confidently. So, right? So, which of these 5 steps are you already doing? Right? If it's 1, drop a 1 in the comments. If it's 2, drop a 2 down there. And those of you who catch a replay, you can drop your comments as well. I always circle back and check my comments on my videos. So, yeah, let me know which one of these you're already doing, right? Or if you have something else you feel I left off, drop that in the comments too. Always open to a lot of feedback because we're all trying to be successful, right? So certainly, again, leave that comment below, and thank you so much for joining me for today's session. Let me know if this like really hit the spot for you. Let me know that. Okay. Now, for a deeper dive, I want you to go ahead and check out my blog. I also have a blog titled "My is 5 Simple Delegation Strategies That Empower Teams." And let's see if I remember to copy and paste. Yeah, I did not, but that's okay because that is why I have it over here, right? So, and I'll also link to it in the comments as well as in the description, and I'm gonna drop it live in the chat right now so you can have that. If it doesn't tell me I put too much stuff there, I think there it goes, right? And so I know there's some because I want to say hi to everybody on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, and I'll circle back to make sure I put that link in each of those places because I know some of you cannot see that on live right now as I drop it in there. So, but I'm definitely linking to it in the comments and the description. So you will be able to find it. And I will see you back here the next time. Take care. Bye-bye.